Let's let it go.
Dr. Rosie Milligan, one of the most sought-after speakers on the circuit today. Her live internet talk show, Express Yourself, is the most provocative, thought-provoking, and talked-about radio show on the internet. There's no holds barred, and Dr. Milligan puts the B in bold. She brings it every Tuesday live at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Dr. Rosie has been proclaimed the most provocative female writer of the century. Her books include Satisfying the Black Man and Black Woman Sexually Made Simple, Why Black Men Choose White Women, and the book Nigga Please. These books have raised eyebrows across the country. She has authored 21 books and published 350 titles for authors nationwide. Check Dr. Rosie out at drrosie.com for her books, articles, and archives of her internet talk show. Sit at the feet of wisdom. Dr. Milligan is indeed a timekeeper and scorekeeper. She is the clock, calendar, and almanac for Black America. You need to hear her.
Well. Good morning, top of the morning. It's raining out here in Southern California. Well, what can I say? Certainly cannot complain. We've been begging and praying for rain for a long time, and we finally got it, and people are still complaining. I guess we can't please everybody because we do need rain. Those who don't need it, well, don't fuss. Just, go along with the other people who are feeling real blessed because it's raining, and slow up when you're driving, okay? You're listening to the Express Yourself Hour. I am your host, Dr. Rosie Milligan, coming to you with nothing but straight talk. You know how we do it around here. Nothing but straight talk. This is not a show for the coward. It's not a show for the faint at heart. We don't have time to play. If we want to play, we're going to track on out to the park. My co-host is the wonderful, the fabulous. You guys know how I do it. Every week I'm in the thesaurus trying to find another adjective in which to describe him by, and I keep coming up with the word that he's intelligent, he's black, and he's just wonderful. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning, Dr. Rosie. How are you doing?
I am doing so wonderful, just happy to be here, glad to feel the rain. Well, I'm glad to feel anything because you know what I mean.
Yeah, under DJ Trump, every day is a blessed day.
You know what? Quiet as it kept. The old folks say it's quiet as it kept. I'm feeling about good right now because I've learned one thing, that black folks don't do nothing unless you scare them. So
That's true.
At least he put some scare in them. We put some fire up on them. And if they pay close attention and take note of what they need to be doing, I think it's going to be a good year. I'm planning on it being a good year because I'm going to pack my own parachute. That's what I've been doing all along, my own parachute. For those who've been waiting on somebody else's parachute, you guys just might hit the ground this year. That's what I'm talking about. We have a wonderful show for you today. We have one of my great friends, the man that I respect so much. I don't think he is the man with the plan, and I'm just waiting for a day. I wish I could take a belt or a pistol, whatever, and just make folks just sit down and don't just read his book, don't just run to hear him, but really to put into practice, because everything he has laid out, there are other people coming through the back door trying to say what he said, instead of saying, well, Dr. Anderson told us this and you all need to get with it. They trying to sneak it. He's trying to act like act like they funk it up. But they did. It was the renowned Dr. Claud Anderson. He's the president of the Harvest Institute, author Black Labor, White Wealth, Power Numbers, the plan to empower Black America, Dirty Little Secrets, and more Dirty Little Secrets. And he's getting ready to launch his new book coming up soon. And I tell you all, you want it. But I had a sneak peek, and I'm not telling you anything. You're going to have to wait till it come out on the market and see for yourself. Wow, this is it. It's Michael Jackson said, this is it. This book, this is it. Today, we're going to talk about Black America must renegotiate all relationships, even with the black overclass. We're going to listen to the man with the plan for Black America. Dr. Anderson's been right all the time, and every time. I call him the prophet. He don't like for me to call him the prophet, but he is, because he prophesied what would happen to black people. And everything he prophesied is happening in the year that he said it was going to happen. Oh, wow. I am so excited about that. Dr. Anderson also talks about exceptionalism. He's going to talk about that later today, too, that it is the path to empower Black America. And if we don't understand this exceptionalism, if we don't understand that, trust me, blacks will become, well, they're already that, but they will remain an economic underclass if we don't understand this word. See, we run around talking about racism. I don't want to hear a person say nothing else to me ever about racism. Number one, they don't know what it is. They can't explain it. They just running off at the mouth. The word that we need to understand for this hour and this time is going to be the one that Dr. Anderson talks about, exceptionalism. That's what we need to understand. Good morning, Dr. Anderson.
Good morning to you, Rosie. And I typically I would say I would inquire, how are you doing out there? But now I haven't watched the news that y'all are swimming.
Yeah, we're swimming out here.
Yeah, and don't even have swimming pools in your swimming.
I know. Everything is floating out here but money, okay? Everything is floating up out the pool but money around here. But
well, you all are blessed, though. You're blessed because, right, as I told you a number of years ago in a couple of our newsletters, in Harvard newsletters, we got major water shortages coming, not only in this around the world, because right now about 15 to 20% of the world's population is suffering from acute water shortages. And those water shortages are going to come to America, and they're going to start in California and spread across the country. And when those water shortages occur, what's going to happen is that if you can't have water, you won't be able to raise vegetables, so you won't have any food to eat from coming out of the ground, out of the trees. But additionally to that, the animals won't be able to eat either, so you're going to have food shortages following the water shortages. That's coming. And you all are very blessed if you got a lot of water right now. You all better get out there and try to stock it up and block it up and hold it up as much as you can. Because otherwise, the shortages are coming. And then, as I said, and following those water shortages, you're going to have food shortages.
Yep, all over the world. Yep.
Yes, I better
That's
start
right, it's coming.
digging me a well.
And the sad thing about it is, under globalization, you got a few industries in this country that are now being incorporated by major entities outside, like China. They're trying to buy up most of your food shortage. They're going to take over your pork industry. They're going to take over your milk industry. They're going to take over. Right now, they got groups trying to take over your grain industry. And what they're doing now is having changed DNA-wise the seed base that you want. The seeds you get now are going to be so neutralized you can't even raise. Even if you had seeds to plant, the seeds won't grow food anymore. So you're going to have a lot of food shortages coming too.
Wow. So whenever we have a shortage, you know who's going to suffer the most. That's going to be African American,
right,
you know,
right.
Because many of them are put in a position right now that they don't have enough. They can't even afford to buy enough water to last their family for 1 week. Black folks, you better listen up. While you're in the nail shop, the weave shop, whatever shop you're spending all your money in, you better pay attention because things are getting ready to happen around here. And you need to make sure that you and your family are prepared. Don't go to sleep at the wheel because other people are stocking up. Just like in Atlanta, someone was telling me just this last week they had the snowstorm, how people packed into those markets and the shelves were basically empty. But think about those who could not get anything because they were waiting for their check to come. Black folk, you all better listen up. We're talking about empowerment, what we need to do to come out of the ditch and the things that we need to understand. Now, you all today, we're going to take calls. Give us about 3 minutes, and we'll take some calls. We have someone in 901, and we'll come to you first. But Dr. Anderson, I thank you so much because I know you're on the radio all over the country. People are calling on you. But I want the people to not only call on you, but pay attention and do what you said do. If people had really listened, we would not be in the shape that we are in today. And I like when we talked and you talked about renegotiating all our relationships. We just have to stop. We cannot, as you always said, go along to get along. We need to look at what type of relationship that we want to have with everybody, and including black folks. Don't leave them out. We're looking at what other folks are doing to us. I think it's time that we look at black folks now. Look at what are they doing to set black folks back further. What are they doing? I think it's time we talk about that. So, Dr. Anderson, when you talk about renegotiating all our relationship, just tell us what you're talking about, and after we'll open up for some calls.
Right. Well, first of all, Rosie, as you know, that I have the dubious honor of being one that wrote the first affirmative action plan in the United States, going back to 1970 and 71. When I wrote it for the state of Florida, it was approved by the governor and the state cabinet system and the attorney general and everybody. And that system, affirmative action plan, went all over the country. So then corrective action for black folk. At that point in time, I was very concerned about what was going to happen to black folk in this country, because I felt ever since the civil rights movement, they're on the wrong track, going the wrong way, being bamboozled and misled by people who were putting their self-interest above their race. And so I wanted black folk to try to figure out how to get in a better position to protect themselves. And so back before the end of the 20th century, what I did, I wrote 2 books, and I was trying to tell them way before the planes hit the tower in New York that you got major problems coming, you got terrorists coming to problem, that you need to be prepared to deal with these activities, political activities on the horizon. And one of them was terrorism. And what I said to them is that if you do not get in a position to deal with terrorism and anything else, and you don't do it before the year 2013, you will become a permanent underclass by 2013. We passed that point. Now you are a permanent underclass in a society. And an underclass, by the definition, Rosie, an underclass is simply those individuals, by the pure nature of their social, economic condition and deprivation, they are predestined to live for the rest of their lives as either beggars or criminals. You got no other alternative except that. You're predestined to live. That's where you're locked into right now, is living as beggars or criminals. You're going to be begging now, starting this year, begging for resources as this new administration come on board. And you're going to be criminalized all over this country. That's why police are shooting you down in the street. That's why you got all this shooting and killing in Chicago and New York. You're predestined to stay in that position. And so what I want black folk to understand is that we got to learn how to play this game and play this game to win. And based on powernomics, what I said to them is that we're going to come out with a powernomics declaration starting the 1st of this year, which is January, the month we're in now. We are proclaiming that the year 2017 is the year of black America. This is our year. The entire year must be fully, solely dedicated to blackness. This is our year. We must either get our act together or be locked in that box forever and never get out of it. So Powernomics is proclaiming this year for not only for blackness, but also we're putting out a program focus on 2 things. The first thing is to say that we must focus on exceptionality. Black people are exceptional people. You're totally different from any other groups of people on this earth. You're not an African American. You're not a people of color. You're not a minority. You are a black people. You've been mistreated, ill-treated, and uniquely treated, and specifically treated different from any human beings on earth. You're an exceptional people. And any time you walk away from your exceptionality, you lock yourself in that box as an underclass, you'll never get out. And do not, under any circumstance, let people ignore your exceptionality. I tell black folks from the get-go, you're the only people that are in this country. You're not an immigrant. You're the only non-immigrants in this nation. Everybody else in this country is an immigrant, even those people they keep calling Native American. They're not Native Americans. They came across the Bering Straits about 6,000 or 7,000 years ago as Asians and interbred with Folsom people already in this country and became what they call American Indians. You're not immigrants, the first thing. Secondly, you're the only people that were brought into this country involuntarily. Thirdly, you are the only people that came in this country not as a benefactor of the benefits in the country. You came here to be a part of the American dream. The American dream is made up of 2 things. It's based on black labor and free so-called Indian land. That is the American dream. Everybody come in this country, they come in this country and get land except black folk. The first law in this country after the Constitution was ratified in 1789 was to say, by 1790 in the nationalization law, that anybody is welcome to this country except black folk or people who cannot be defined as being whites. And any of those people coming to this country were eligible for the American dream. They can get free land. and free black labor. So consequently, when they started out in 1790, the first person started out with George Washington, who was the first so-called president of the United States. He picked up 100,000 acres of free land. Thomas Jefferson got 100,000 acres of free land. Patrick Henry, who says, "Give me liberty, give me death," got 65,000 acres of free land. Every white person coming to this nation was eligible under homesteading for 640 acres of free land. For every black slave they had, they could pick up another 150 acres of free land. And and there's a head rights, they can get another 140 acres for saying I'm the man head of the house. And consequently, when they began to move across the country, you had something like 15 or 20 railroads that went into existence and tried to go across this country. And they picked up 6 miles of free land on both sides of the railroads all over this country, that which equal out to 24 million acres of free land the railroads got, that later on converted to other things they invested in, like steel and mining and everything else. That money has multiplied over and over again. And when the first immigrants, the last Immigration Act that brought in the immigrants after the end of the Civil War, and the land rush across the Mississippi River, those European immigrants came in again and picked up almost over 2 million acres of land in 24 hours. That's why all these out where you are, where you got all those big white farms out there and ranches with that in 140,000 acres ranch, they did not buy that land. Just like George Washington and Thomas, they didn't buy the land; they got it free. And then consequently, as a result of that, under the immigration policies of 1790, white folk picked up over 1 billion, B-I-L-L-I-N, 1 billion acres of free land. And not only that, land has multiplied and tripled and doubled in value every 20 years. And not only did the land in itself double and triple every 20 years, but all the resources in that land, the gold, the silver, the chrome, the bauxite, the magnesium, the gas, the oil, and all what that accounted to was that white folk then acquired 99.5% of the wealth of this nation free, never paid for it. And it came to anybody who was an immigrant. And black folk have to understand they're not immigrants. They started resisting immigration laws in this country, saying you can't bring any more immigrants to this country. We are the exceptional people. We're the only people. Because when we came out of slavery, we couldn't get not one free acre of land. Not one free acre of land would come to us, but you're giving out 1 billion to whites and to immigrants coming to this country. And so and then we were black folk, also the exception. They're the only people that came to this country, not as human beings. They came here as property. They came here as 3/5 of a human being. They came here as being equal to a field animal. They were treated that way. Black folk are the only people, the special people, the exceptional people who are shut out of being allowed to play a role in government. They're the only people disallowed to hold an office. They're the only people, they're the exceptional people. They were only people that were denied a right to have an education. Anybody caught teaching a black person to read and write would have cost you $100 and 39 lashes with a whip to be caught teaching a nigger to read and write. What they did, they imposed ignorance on black folk and called them niggers. And so they could not compete with whites. They're the only people, for instance, that were not allowed to own property. They could not own property. They could not go to school. They could not be paid for their labor. 99% of all the black folk in America are the direct descendants of slaves. They're the only people in this country, the exceptional people. They're the only people in this country who has fought in every major war and battle for this country, yet their mother country has never gone to war with this country. All these other immigrants coming to this country, their country, mother countries, whether it's Japan, China, Russia, French, German, Canadians, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Koreans, anybody you name, they've all fought this country except black folk. Black folk are the only people whose mother countries never fought this country, point one, and point two, they're the only people who have participated and fought in every major battle defending this country. And they're the only people whose labor built the highways, the roads, the canals, the bridges across this nation. I can go on and on to make a point of the exceptionality of black folk. Black folk are exceptional people. Therefore, they should resist all efforts to put them in these broad categories, these broad ambiguous categories called minorities and poor folk and people of color. And if you do that, what they've done systematically and socially engineered you into is to disallow you to claim your exceptionality. You cannot claim your exceptionality if you let them call you a minority. You cannot have an exceptionality if you let them call you a minority or people of color. You cannot have an exceptionality if they put you in the multicultural bags. What you got to say is that we are special people. We would not go into those bags. We're entitled to special benefits and special recognition and special appreciation, and we are also entitled to reparations. Black folk must begin to push their exceptionalities and say we're going to move as a people, period, as a group, by ourselves. So that nobody, not the gays, not the multicultural, not the transsexual, nobody is equal to black folk in this country. Nobody has suffered the way we have. Nobody's been excluded the way we have, not even Indians. We're the only people that have been set aside and locked in and boxed by the United States Constitution and all the other documents. Then that's the first point. Yeah, let me finish my point, though. Now, the second point is that that's the exceptionality. The second point is once you get your exceptionality, you must now tell everybody that you're going to renegotiate your relationship with any and everybody. You're going to renegotiate your relationship with all the major political parties. You're going to renegotiate your relationship with all the major corporations. You're going to renegotiate your relationship with even the civil rights organizations, and you're going to renegotiate your relationship with our black overclass. What you're renegotiating, you say we will not support anything in those groups, socially, economically, or politically, unless if they do not support black folk. And hold everybody accountable. Hold all the political parties, all these white corporations, and hold the black overclass, and even your black entertainers. If they can be rich and wealthy, playing football, basketball, dancing, singing, telling jokes, whatever they want, but they do not go out of their way to be able to reconnect with the black community, either as entertainers or they don't reconnect by heading up a civil rights organization. We're going to also abandon them and boycott them and to treat them just like we would any other hostile group.
Okay. You all heard it straight from Dr. Anderson, the man with the plan. And we have 4 people holding on. We come into your calls. And those who want to get in, you can call 310-928-7733. 310-928-7733. We're talking to Dr. Anderson, and we're talking about Black America must renegotiate all relationships with even the black overclass. If you have your speakers on, we need you to turn it off. If you're on your cell phone or your phone, we need you to put it on mute because we'll get static, and if the static comes through, we will have to drop you. So do *6.
If you're not speaking and we don't call on you, mute your phone, please. Otherwise, the engineer will drop you. We want you to get in and talk to Dr. Anderson. I think our first caller is from 901.
Go ahead, 901. Give us your name. Area code 901. Give us your name. Tell us where you're calling from.
Okay, I had to unmute my phone. Good afternoon. This is Pearl Walker, host of A Kinky Conversation on Interlight Radio. First and third Tuesdays. Hey, Keith. First and third Tuesdays from 8 to 9 p.m. Central Time. Happy New Year, everyone. It's a pleasure once again, Dr. Anderson, and we're going to have to get you on my show. But since I had the opportunity to speak, I was just calling in to listen. As you made reference to black organizations, what do you think the focus should be for the NAACP, the Urban League, our historically national black organizations at this particular time in our history, in our country, in relation to what you just laid out for us? What do you think the focus, the purpose, the main tenets of these organizations' agenda should be moving forward?
It's very simple. That's a good question. What you should tell them is that either they're going to have to come out of the closet, either because they never have really been that a black organization. They've been hiding and fronting as a black organization while taking care of everybody else. When the NAACP came into existence in 1909, it came in by whites setting it up, and they had a very specified and limited agenda that they would do some things for black folk, but they would do things for other groups as well, especially the Jews coming into the country that want to be able to invest in and get involved in economics in the black communities. The same thing later on in 1911 when you came up with the Urban League. They've always carried dual agendas, but they've always been perceived as being black. There, what they've done systematically and shrewdly is give black folk a bill without the thrill. Black folk have been billed and labeled and burdened by being identified with those organizations, even though those organizations were not specifically providing that much for black folk in return. What the Urban League ain't providing anything for the black folk. Just last night, yesterday morning, here on the Morning Joe show, when you got Moriel over the Urban League, he said he had issued a report card from the Urban League on Obama's years in office, and he'd given them excellent on every respect. And when Morning Joe said, how about with black folk? He said, we gave him an excellent on that too. How in the world can you give somebody excellent on a mark? And they have done absolutely nothing for black folk. Never even used the word black. And what they're saying, well, Dr. Anderson, a rising tide will lift all boats. That's a lie. Now, the rising tide never lifted the Titanic or the Lusitania. They're stuck on the bottom. Black folk are outside underneath the system. And the person is in the office, and the president in any other office for 8 years, he should specifically have addressed the issue of black folks based on a quid pro quo basis. And so that's the first thing. So what you got to do is call these organizations out and say, if you're not going to do something specifically for black folk, then disassociate. Come out publicly and say, we do not represent black folk. We represent everybody but black. We're not a black organization. We're a minority organization. So that black folk would no longer have to carry the burdens of people, or the Ku Klux Klan, anybody else identifying black folk with these organizations when they black folk aren't getting anything out of those organizations.
And who are they getting most of their money from back then?
Thank you. I'm going to continue to listen. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead. And those organizations have been funding them. And anytime black folks started moving towards economics, those organizations said, well, if you all start talking about economics, we'll walk away from you and abandon you. And that's what happened in the 1960s with the Civil Rights Movement. But they didn't mind helping black folk try to find jobs. That's all the Urban League does. So we'll help black folk find some jobs, and we'll put up some classes to train them to be a labor class. Black folk don't need to be a labor class. They've been a labor class for 500 years. What they need to be is an employment class. Rather than teaching blacks how to find jobs, they need to start teaching blacks how to produce jobs. And black folk need to disassociate and redefine. So what are you going to do for black folk? If you're going to use us or identify us or get us classified with you, you better start putting something on the table for black folk.
I like that, Dr. Anderson. Let's go to 626.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes. We're going to take a call from 626.
626.
Unmute your phone, 626. Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
626. Okay. This is
626. Go ahead.
626. Going once, going twice, gone. 323. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
My name is Mary Johnson. I'm calling from Southgate.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have a question or a comment?
Oh, well, I'm calling I just got on late, but I'm calling just to listen.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, put your phone on mute then.
All right.
Okay, we'll go back to 626 again. Are you there? 626.
Well, that's another. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
626. Who are you and where are you calling from?
Kenyaka Hacienda Heights. Hi, Dr. Anderson. Good to hear you again. I really just called in to listen.
Okay, put your phone on mute.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Anderson.
Yes,
I'm glad someone asked that question about organizations, because I think organizations, until we learn to support our own and make sure that we hold them accountable, if they're getting all their money from the oppressor, they're going to continue to do just enough for you to make it look like they're doing something for you, but they're not. They're working for the person who paid them. People tend to work for their employer, not for the employee. So consider yourself the employee benefactor, and they're going to work for the people who are giving them the money. So I think we need to be very clear, because a lot of people give a lot of money to these organizations because they really think that they're doing something. And when you bring these issues up, Dr. Anderson, black folks tend to get mad at you. You know, we air dirty linen, and these people are doing good. And what you said today is so true but people want to jump on you about Obama, because they begin to tell me, well, people were able to save their house. I said, that's for everybody. Student loans, he worked with that. I said, only thing I want you to tell me is, what did he do specifically specifically for black folks, and nobody can ever tell me that.
Right. Yep.
Well, see, and that's been true throughout history, Rosie, because see, black folk are always involved in, engaged in what I call wheel spinning, non-frictional kind of activities. They love to enjoy and invest their time and energy in symbolisms and intangible, non-measurable things, ceremonious things they allowed Obama and anybody else to get away with it by saying, well, he paid. They put out more money in their education, so and we go to school, so that helped us. And they fixed up the roads, and they were doing the same thing back during slavery. I mean, just because somebody fixed up roads for the 360 years blacks were enslaved, how'd that help the slave? Just because the whites had schools all doing slavery, that didn't help black folk. Black folk lacked the ability to be able to critically understand that anything that's for everybody is for nobody except those who are getting the direct benefits. Right. Nobody, not one politician in the history of this nation, not a president or an elected official has ever gone out of his way to specifically to do something solely and specifically for black folk. And what that does, it invalidates the whole concept of politics. Politics is based on a very simple premise, quid pro quo, something for something. One hand washes the other. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. You put me in office, I owe you. And they call that in our society, in the Constitution and the Federalist Papers, they call it representative government, which means you run for an office to represent a specific group of people. Right. And once you get elected, you get stand before a person, a minister or somebody holding a Bible, and he says, I hereby put my hand on this Bible and I swear as an oath to protect and serve those who put me in office. Now, how in the world you keep putting these people in the office in the Senate, in the House of Representatives, in the mayor's office, and in state offices, and in the White House that are putting their hands on the Bible, swearing that they would protect and serve you, and they haven't done a damn thing for you.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, you all heard it straight from Dr. Anderson.
Even the constituency. If you notice that the constituency of Trump, this is how they do it. As soon as they put him in, they said they're going to hold his feet to the fire, and they will be marching on Washington if he doesn't do what they put him in office to do. This is what black folks should have done with Obama. We put you in office, and if you don't do what we want or what we're supposed to do for us, represent us, we're supposed to be have been down there instead of praising him, basically putting his feet to the fire. We didn't do that.
Right. They should be called and call all the elected officials out. Call these civil rights laws people out. It is totally inconceivable that in this country that you allow yourselves as black folk to be enslaved and semi-enslaved for 500 years. Not 5 years, but 500 years, and still talking about all we want to do is get along and be in friendship with everybody. We just want to be liked and loved. That's not what politics is about, is liking and loving. It's about benefits out of life. And if you're not getting any benefits, you're going to die.
Well, Dr. Anderson, you always talk about how we go along with symbolism. And right now, if a person, black's going to be very docile now because all they want to see, if the president appoint a few blacks, we're going to be ticker pink and go sit down and not going to have anything to say. It just thing that makes us feel good, and we don't think about the thing that's not good for us. So let's go to 626-339. 626.
Hello. Yes.
Hello, go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Rosie, Brother Keith, and Dr. Claud Anderson. This is Carl. How you guys doing?
Hey, Carl. What's going on?
Hi, Carl.
I've been looking for you.
Just wanted to thank you guys again for bringing up very important topics. I don't want to take up too much time, but I did want to put a little bug out in front of everyone. This is something I've been teaching as a forensic economist for years, and especially for black folk. King of the Mountain is not a multicultural sport. And for everyone else in the world, multiculturalism is Hunger Games. For black folk, it's Kumbaya. In this Trump environment, that we're about to face, which is basically, it could either be an opportunity or our headstone. It's an econo-ethnic protectionist environment. Here's what I mean. They're basically, if you saw what happened with Jack Ma and his talking to Trump, listen to his statements very carefully. He talked about the Midwest in terms of bringing jobs. In other words, white blue-collar individuals that are going to be displaced by this automation and everything else. He's saying, I'm going to make sure you guys eat. Again, protectionism. hopefully we as a people, once we do our inventory, we can be more protectionist about everything, including our property, our economy, our whatever it is, instead of giving it out to the rest of the world. But anyways, I just had to thank you guys again, and I'm always going to be listening as usual.
Thank you, Carl, as always. We always appreciate you. Dr. Anderson?
Hello?
Dr. Anderson? Okay,
yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Yeah,
it is so important for us to really take note. As you notice, we're not saying a whole lot because when you have somebody like Dr. Anderson who will get on these airways as busy as he is to talk to us, I know you want to hear from him. And those who are out there, you make sure that don't just always be listening. You need to get his book, because if you read Powernomics chapter 7 in particular, you will truly understand what we are supposed to do, and we need to be about doing it. And I want you to go to the Powernomics. Those in LA, you can pick his books up here at my bookstore, Classic One Bookstore at 1425 West Manchester Avenue. The rest of you, I want you to go to Powernomics.com. And I tell you why. You know, we are under a situation now where we want to make sure that the economic flows to the people that it's flow to. When you go to Amazon.com, I know you like to go there because you like to buy from white folks. So you feel good when you say, I went to Amazon, I went to Barnes & Noble. I want you all to know who listen out there. You all are crushing our intellect. You're crushing our literary giants, because when you go to those places, you're cutting them out of money because they take most of the money. I'm just be straight up front with you. People like Amazon.com, they get far more than 50% of the author's retail costs, and they have to write the book, pay to get it printed, get out here and talk to you, and then you go to Amazon and get your book. Go to Powernomics. Dr. Anderson will give you the website. It's powernomics.org, I believe. You want to go there and get your books. And I want to see orders flying into his office. He gives up. He could be asleep right now. He's giving up his time to give you knowledge that he already has, and his family has this knowledge. Okay? So let's show him that we appreciate him. And not only that, if you get his work, you're going to learn what to do. It is truly the blueprint for empowerment for Black folks.
Yeah. He can make far more money on the other side. Trust and believe. You know, he's basically giving himself up for his own people, because with what he knows and the experience that he has, he can make far more money on the other side.
And the other people coming up, they're coming up, you all, because they are buying Powernomics.
Right.
Dr. Anderson, would you tell them that the other folks are using Powernomics?
Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, Asians and Hispanics, they buy them on a regular basis, and they call and ask me to explain different aspects to them to help them do vertical integration. And most of the plans that even the smaller plans I did for the city of Detroit, as you're well aware of, all the things that I asked blacks to do in Detroit and trying to empower them as an underrepresented group, and even though they made up 90% of the population of Detroit, everything that the city didn't want to do for the business plan I had for black folk, because they thought it was racist for me to do something for black folk and not include Asians, Arabs, Hispanics, even though they admitted in this, they said, Dr. Anderson, it's racist for you to come into the city and build something strictly for black folk. Even though we do in the city, we know the city is 92% black, but we do have an Asian town. We do have a Chinatown. We have an Arab town. We have a Mexican town. We have a hockey town. We have a Cork town. We have a Pole town. We have a Greek town. But if you do something for blacks and building a black business, that would be racist. And the black leadership, like the Booker T. Washington Foundation and Renaissance Group and the New Detroit, and a lot of the black civil rights leaders say, yeah, it would be racist to do something only for us. And see, and when you get black folk that are stuck on stupid, you cannot do anything for our people. Those are the most dangerous people you're going to run into. And that's why I tell blacks all the time, the reason I say exceptionality, I use exceptionality means do not let them use those broad, ambiguous terms, including African American. You're not African Americans. Everybody in America is an African American. Since all human beings migrated out of Africa, anybody comes to America is an African American. And that does not distinguish anybody coming to America from black folk. Black folk got a unique historical treatment and perspective on what happened in this country. And more importantly, people say, well, Dr. Anderson, well, we're not all black. Some of us are light-skinned and brown. They must understand that blackness is not necessarily a skin color.
It's a class.
It is a condition. It's a commitment. It's your badge. It's your honor. It's your cover. It's your protection. And it's your unifying factor. Stay with your own people and quit let them trick you into minorities, poor folk, people of color, blue carb, Joe Six-Pack, or African American.
But Dr. Anderson, they're saying that it's not right to build something just for your own race, for black people. But all the other people who are coming here, everything they're building is for themselves, because they're not incorporating black people. Many of them don't even have black folks. But black people think that's okay, I guess.
Oh yeah, they think that's okay because they think that's part of your major problem in Black America. Black America got this super liberal attitude, and like you cut on any show, you cannot find a black that'll go on TV and talk about something specifically and solely for black folks. They won't do it halfway out of ignorance, and the other half is they just simply are scared. They're scared to say, well, I'm here to represent my people. They're going and say, well, Dr. Anderson, here's what's happening. Black folk are in jail, black folk in prison, black folk on food stamps, black on welfare. We got black on black crime. We have no housing for black folk. We have nothing for black folk. Now, what are y'all going to do for minorities and poor people? See, they're switch on it. They're bait switch.
Right.
And they get away with it. And seeing black folk let them get away with it. They use black folk to point out a major social economic problem or some kind of social pathology. Then all of a sudden they switch and say, but direct the benefits to all people, even though we're the people that are suffering. Give it to all people. And like you said, Rosie, if black folk are the only people that need a wheelchair and that are crippled,
right?
Why are you gonna go around and try to give every damn body a wheelchair?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Even though I always repeat that because. Even Moynihan said civil rights and affirmative action was specifically for black people to repair the damage that had been done to them. It was not for anybody else.
That's right. You're absolutely right.
We don't want to be the exception. We want to be in the mainstream. That's why some people, when they start talking about cultural diversity, a lot of black folk got mad.
Yeah.
We're all the same.
But the whole thing
put us in a separate class.
But the whole thing is that what Moynihan wanted to do, what people don't realize, they were set with a problem. How do you bring black families that have been damaged, their culture have been damaged, into the mainstream? That's what it was for. It was not to keep you out of the mainstream. It was to repair the damage that was done to you because you had been pushed so far under and behind that you couldn't compete with the mainstream. So they had to repair you so that you could become a regular American. It wasn't to be over anybody, but the thing is to bring you up to parallel with everybody else. Go ahead, Dr. Anderson. Yeah,
but no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And the absolute worst thing that can happen, that's why this is a year for exceptionality for black folk. And that should be your riding horse. You should ride that horse to death in everything. Is that the worst thing you can do, and the biggest lie that can be told is to pretend somehow that all people's country have contributed equally to the development of this nation. That is a lie. All people in this country did not contribute equally to the development of this nation. And I just told you a few minutes ago that 99% of all the black folk people here before all the other 99% of all the other people have arrived. How can they have contributed equally to the development of this nation when you didn't have any Arabs and Asians, Hispanics and Chinese and Japanese and Filipinos and Eskimos and the rest of them in the country, when black folk were in the fields, when black folk were the laboring class? You got to express your exceptionality.
Dr. Anderson, I spent many years in the cotton field and I didn't see one, okay? I didn't see one of them out there, okay? I picked so much cotton that I don't even want to pay for anything that's made out of cotton when I go into the store. See,
then the question, Rose,
everybody was slaves here. That's how they get most black people. They say everybody came, we were slaves, so we ain't got nothing different. That's why I'm glad you're saying what you're saying. I hear that every day. Everybody been slaves.
No. See, everybody was not slaves. Yes, you might have had humans. That's another lie they tell. By the way, we've had slavery ever since the first human beings on earth. That's a lie. Slavery was based on three conditions when it first came to this earth. It was based on, first of all, being for religious persecution, point one, point two, for personal indebtedness, or three, for being a prisoner of war. Those were the three bases for slavery up until about 1450, when Henry the Navigator introduced blacks off of Africa into the Vatican and into the Catholic Church, and they started using slaves. And by 1488, when Pope Innocent came out and says, in the future, let's broaden the whole concept of slavery. not only will slavery be based on being a prisoner of war for religious and reasons or for personal indebtedness, but now let's make it based on skin color. So don't let these Hannitys and O'Reillys and these Rush Limbaughs BS you all and talking about slavery always existed. You got caught in a new form of slavery that only you have had. You are the unique, exceptional people. And that's why I said, don't let anybody call you anything but an exceptional people, and make sure they call their word black. Use no other word. Don't let them talk about Joe Sixpack, about poor people. Don't say, no, don't talk about black folks as being poor people. No, you say, no, you identify black folk very specifically. They identified you very specifically, and they put you in slavery. They got to identify you very specifically to bring you out of it.
Wow. Even when you look at black people, you mentioned how they were being hand cut off because they wanted to learn how to read. They were trying to read in the dark, and everybody else came in. Not only are they trying to help them read, they have special classes, put them in, have special teachers, special education to make sure that they can read and understand the language. Dr. Anderson, we have something on the board to say. Can Dr. Anderson share his observation about gentrification that is taking place in many large African-American cities? Most, not African-American. You see, I want everything to be Africans, black folks, in American cities, and what this meant for blacks in those cities, like Detroit, Baltimore in particularly.
Well, again, they got you locked in box, because in those cities, approximately 70% of all the black people in America live in and around 10 large metropolitan areas. Those areas were run down and drained intentionally in response to the 1954 desegregation decision, when white folks decided that rather than integrate in these large urban areas, what we'll do is we'll use the 1950 Highway Act, and we'll build expressways through every major city, and we go outside the city limits, and we'll build what we call suburbs, and we'll relocate all the resources out of those urban cities into what's called suburbs. We'll take the factories, the jobs, the employments, the banks, the business, everything, and the middle class, and put them in the suburbs. And they ran those cities down. And even though they left blacks there, that's how blacks became the majority population. But they said, but we use a scorched field policy, saying that the blacks will not be able to run them because we've drained everything out of them. Then we set the fields on fire and burned up all the crops. There's nothing in those cities. And sooner or later, those black folk have two alternatives. They can either follow us to the suburbs, or they can stay in the cities and let them become abandoned, run-down traps. And so what happened? Half the black folk said, well, we'll move to the suburbs. That was the headship, the leadership in black communities. They cut the heads off of black folk. The so-called educated blacks moved to the suburbs, and they left the body of the blacks inside the city. Those in the suburbs, they got a head out there, but they have no body. Nobody relates to them. Nobody gives a damn about black folks living out in the suburbs with whites.
Exactly.
They're just out there. They're out there as a token. And the blacks inside the city, then now they have no head. All they got is a body walking around acting foolish, walking around their pants hanging down and acting crazy. So you got to put the head back on the body by declaring yourself the exceptional people. And the suburbs and outside those cities will be the new ghettos. And white folk are going to gentrify and lead the suburbs. Now they've tricked the head into the suburbs. They're going to now double back and go back downtown and take over all that land again, where they got enough of these bodies walking around shooting each other and drugging up and walking their pants down. They're going to go back and take them over and get double benefits. It's called a circuit. It's called a concentric circle of mobility. They're going back downtown. They're going to take over. And black folk, they're going to gentrify those cities, then take all the resources in those cities, and they're going to privatize them into the hands of white folk that got the money. And that's so that anything in an urban city, if it's a bridge or tunnel or any kind of land, an airport, anything that white folk can use, the real estate, to make money, they're going to go into the hands of the wealthy whites who got the money to buy it, because the black bodies in there don't have the money. They can't do anything. They can't figure out how to use those resources because they don't have any thinking class. The thinking class is sitting out in the damn suburbs with white folk.
And now they're going to move the people moved out in the suburb because they were trying to get away from the so-called ghetto folks. So now they're going to take the same people that they were trying to get away from. They're going to build a project and low-income houses now in the suburb. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. I mean, George Bush did it. George Bush Sr. did it right after the Rodney King riots with Hope 6. He passed the under HUD. So basically, it's a 25-year-old process that's been going on, just accelerating.
Well, see, and that's the trick. And so that's why all these major cities, and I came to Washington, D.C. with President Carter. At that particular time, Washington, D.C. was known as Chocolate City.
Right.
And it was about 78% black. And now it's down to about 40%.
Right.
Now because they bought out most of the housing here. They go by and take the black bodies that are left, and they buy the houses for $100,000 and fix it up and sell it for $500,000. And so black folk now are being stuck out in the suburbs, and now they're complaining, saying, "Well, we're out here in the suburbs, Dr. Anderson. It's racism." I said, "What's the racism?" They said, "We're out in the suburbs like PG County. PG County has the largest concentration of so-called wealthy blacks in the United States living in PG County outside of Washington, D.C. because they moved out of Washington. And they want to know why don't I help them raise hell about getting white companies to come out there and put up businesses. I said, that's the dumbest thing you ever want to do.
Yeah.
Why are you going to beg whites to come into your neighborhood, set up businesses and take the money out?
Yeah.
They said, what do you think? I said, why don't you go build your own darn businesses?
Yep.
They said, well, we hadn't thought about that. I said, let me tell y'all something in conclusion before I know we got 2 more minutes left. I said they had the whole issue down in Georgia. They said, Dr. Anderson, we want you to come up here. We're gonna go over here and demonstrate. We're gonna raise Cain around a Lieutenant Lester Maddox's restaurant in the underground because he has a restaurant in there and he doesn't want any blacks to come in. They want you to come up there. We're gonna march around his restaurant every day, every morning from about 8:30 to 10 o'clock and sing and hold hands, sing "We Shall Overcome Someday," even though it's been 500 years. We're gonna still hold hands and sing. But Lieutenant Governor Maddox was showing up at something like about 7:30 with sacks of pick handles and axe handles. Asked who wants to whip some nigger heads, so I asked the black leaders. I said, let me tell y'all something. I said, let me ask you one question. I said, why is you always think that the appropriate thing to do is always put black folk into a position where they got to take a free butt whipping just to give white folks the satisfaction of taking their money and spitting in their food? They said, what do you think we should do? I said, why don't you go across the street and build your own darn restaurant? Why would you want to go eat something where people hate you and don't like you and don't want you there in the first place? Go across the street and build your own restaurant.
Exactly.
They said, well, Dr. Anderson, you haven't got the right attitude. I don't care whether they hit us in the head with a brick or a stick. I'm going to make them take this money. I said, that's about the dumbest damn thing I've ever heard in my life. You're going to make somebody take your damn money.
But Dr. Anderson, you know that happened in Atlanta when the black folks marched there in one of the malls. They said it was a black mall. Now, it wasn't on, but just that meant that's where a lot of black folks go. It was in Decatur. They called it the black mall. So they, I think it was Walden pulled that store out, and the black folks said, we're going to make them bring that store back. There was a black bookstore there that was in the mall. The black folk went and picketed. They picketed the headquarters. They wanted the store to come back, and the mall, people on the mall, Walden said, we will come back, but we don't want any other bookstore in the mall if we come back. Do you know though, they made the black people leave the mall, what they call the black mall, because they want to show Walden, we won. Yeah, we made them come back. We got power.
Oh, you're right. And see, and they're trying to do that right now. Right now, they're trying to do that down in Fairfield and Birmingham, Alabama. They got a Newmark. A black guy has a mall down there, and I went down there and spoke at his mall, trying to tell blacks how to rally around, because the 2 or 3 black cities that come together, all of them are predominantly black. I said, and yet almost 100% of all the businesses around there are owned by whites, and they want to know why you living in dumps and shacks. I said, why don't you go spend your money with your own people and go out and put all your businesses in that one mall, then all of you come out there and shop on a regular basis and buy from each other and have your own businesses and circulate your money 8 to 12 times in black hands. Right. I said, right now, if y'all talking about you got almost $300 to $500 million worth of disposable income here. I said, if you circulate that money but you're poor, if you circulate that $500 million round and round, 8 to 12 times. Let's say you did it 10 times. Now look what you got. Now you got $5 billion, and you're the richest people in there.
Yeah.
But you keep enriching everybody but your own people, then crying and moaning about how poor you are, how you're starving and need food stamps, welfare, food stamps, and while you're in prison. I said, you don't see any Asians in prison because they build 1 out of every 10 Asians go into business and buy from their own people. Yeah. 1 out of every 35 whites have businesses. 1 out of every 54 Hispanics have businesses. Only 1 out of 104 blacks go into business. You keep putting yourself in a position to be ripped off and raped and robbed.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Dr.
Yep.
Anderson, I want to ask you the hard question. And you notice I kind of saved it to the end because I know I would get beat over the head and they're going to whip you too. Okay. We're talking about Black America must renegotiate all relationships, even with Black overclass. And that is so important because we sit right here in California. We have restaurants that's supposed to be Black owned. And you go in there and you don't see not one Black person working. And Black folks are sitting up there just a ticket they can be. Yeah, this Black owned. And I'm trying to say, y'all got to be crazy. But I'm going to ask you the hard question right now. When you talk about we need to renegotiate all our relationships. Now, I know I'm going to get put out to church, so I'm going to have to come down there and see. Y'all got an extra room, Dr. Anderson? Can I rent a room from there? Because I want to talk about how should we negotiate with the Black church?
With the Black churches?
Mm-hmm.
That's an easy one, because right now about 38% of all the Black churches right now are in trouble. They're in deep, deep trouble because just like the civil rights organizations, they walked away from their own people. They've been focusing on trying to get along and trying to prepare people to go to heaven, don't care what happens here on the earth. And so about 38% of all the Black churches right now are in foreclosures across this country. And you got these immigrant groups coming in the country to buying them out. And so they need help right now. And there's one fella, Kevin Cosby, up in Louisville, Kentucky, and who I'm working with. He's trying his best this year to pull off a major program where we're going to try to pull most of these churches together and get these Black ministers to cease and desist from trying to act like they want to be little movie stars, where they can and try to do their own thing, and just be looked up to and drive a nice car and have a nice home and all that kind of stuff. But the problem is that you got approximately 65,000 Black churches in America, about 122,000 Black ministers, and they're producing something like about $65 billion a year in disposable income. They're pulling that much money out of Black folks' pockets, $65 billion, but that money and putting it into white banks. They don't produce any jobs, any services, any goods, any products, or anything of value. They're pulling the money out, and the only thing, then in the church they might have one person employed. There might be a secretary or a janitor. And so we're going to try to pull together all the Black churches in this country out of these various denominations and try to get them organized, understand that if Black folk go down there going out with it and to cease and desist and trying to prepare all Black folk to go to heaven and do what every other religion has done throughout history. Arabs use Islam to enrich their people. That's why they marched into Africa in about 765 A.D. So they look at going into Africa in the search of 3 G's, God, glory, and gold, and so they can enrich their people. And they kept pushing into Africa, trying to take over the financial resources and the wealth of Africa, gold, silver, and everything, oil, until about the 1200s, and when they took over Timbuktu, then required every Black person started practicing Islam, because now they say Arabs are in charge of Africa. The Jews use their religion through the synagogues. They teach their children that whatever they want, that when they grow up, whatever they want and need, always remember there's some place a Jew is manufacturing and selling, and that's who you buy it from. So they practice group economics. And the Catholics have always done it. The Catholics had a process, say all roads lead to Rome. Catholics went into all these major countries, particularly in the Southern Americas, in the Mid Central and South America, and set up systems where they can take all the gold and resources and send it to the Vatican in Europe. Everybody used their religion to enhance the life of their people except Black folk. These ministers are still stuck to where they were in 1820 when the evangelical movement moved to this country, which says bring Blacks into the church, but teach them 3 things. One, that whenever the white man talks about slavery, he's talking about the white master on the earth and the Black slave. 2 is that teach Black folk to be hardworking and diligent, and all they want to do is look for labor and work for whites. And 3, that they look for pie in the sky after death. They have not changed it, and they're still doing it in a lot of these churches. They're going to need, and hopefully people like Kevin Cosby and some of the other people, now a little thing we try to do through Powernomics with change, bring about a change. And we tried that a little while back, and I've been meeting with a lot of churches. And out in your city, Dr. Fred Price was very helpful in trying to help me out there. He understood that. And with his church, Crenshaw Church, he's always been very supportive. He's still been supporting all the things we've been doing now for over 20-some years, 25 years. And we had Blake out there. He was going to be the chairman for our little group, and Henderson up there. I can't think what he's doing there. But I was trying to organize the people in all the churches in the L.A. area to do the same thing. But then the one that stuck to it consistently in all these years has been Dr. Fred Price through the Crenshaw Church.
Well, Dr. Anderson, if they would just look at something simple that they can help the people, halfway house. If we're looking at a majority of our people being the one that's incarcerated and coming out, wouldn't it be fabulous for the church? Because this should be right down that line, that it's having halfway houses so we can restore and reconstruct our people coming out of prison at the same time, having a place of employment, set up businesses, like motels, hotels, senior citizen housing. With nonprofit, they can get funding for senior citizen housing, low income housing, long-term care. I'm talking about basic needs that other people are getting rich off of. The foster care system. Blacks need to reap the money from their own people, and they can really restore them. So I mentioned that about the churches. If you have some churches working on that, I think that is a mighty fine thing. If they don't do nothing but start with halfway housing, that's something simple that they can do, provide jobs, and also help our people as God would have them to do.
Right, and you're right, words. And as I said, and you already know, move one step up from the jobs level and anything that's non-profit. Move one step up to economics. And as you go to chapter 8 in Powernomics, that whole chapter focuses on that. And these churches need to be able to teach blacks how to generate wealth, to bring wealth and bring money into the community and lock it into the community. That's why if you look and read that chapter, you find stuff like set up land banks where all the property and where blacks are losing their land and buildings and stuff like that, where the church can begin their mass money, where all the churches pool their money, how they can set up credit unions and everything else. You have to go to the last chapter in Powernomics to cover all those points. But again, I try to keep it focused on economics because blacks need to move beyond just getting jobs and dealing with something that's nonprofit. See, we got a lot of blacks in prison, for instance, Rosie, but those blacks wouldn't be in prison if they had a good, solid foundation and an economy in their own communities. Right. That's why I said to you a few minutes ago, there's a direct link between having businesses and those who are in prison. That's why when I said the highest concentration of wealth now for a median family income in this country is in the Asian community. That's why about 1 out of every 10 Asians in business. But you only got 1 out of 104 blacks in business. That's why the prisons are running over with black folk. Because there's only 3 things that an individual can do to earn a living in our society. You either work and have a business at the top. If you can't do that, you're going to go down to the second level, which is going to the social services. You're going to go into food stamps and welfare and other kind of public assistance. If you can't get something there because the conservatives wiped out the programs, you got to go to the bottom, which is crime, stealing, and begging. So that's why you must do an elaboration combination of those sophistication, those 3 things. You either work, go on welfare, you steal. So putting a person in the prison and just trying to get them a job to come out, it won't cut it. You got to go back and create these opportunities for them to be able to have decent jobs in their own people, with their own people, pass the money around their own community, where they can get 10, 11 different benefits off that same dollar rather than getting one benefit off of it.
Exactly. Dr. Anderson, we have talked you out. I can hear you getting dry. You need a cup of water. We appreciate the time you spent with us. I want the folks to know, to show that your appreciation about going to the website and ordering Dr. Anderson books. If you hear, you can order from Dr. Anderson website, or you can pick his books up at my bookstore, Classic One, at 1425 West Manchester Avenue, just west of Normandy. You can call us at 323-750-3592. 323-750-3592. You all, if you want to know what to do, you got to get Powernomics. Dr. Anderson, go ahead.
And the website is powernomics.com. They go to powernomics.com, and currently they're running a power pack where they'd be able to get all 4 books currently for $70. That's Black Labor, White Wealth, Powernomics, and Dirty Little Secrets and More Dirty Little Secrets. And when this new book comes out, they have a 5-pack. It comes out of it and they have to get all 5 books and be about something like about $80 or $90. It becomes their own independent library. If you don't have these books into your library, then you don't have a library.
Well, don't you have that tape? You have the DVD up there on exceptionalism, right?
Yeah, and we're going to be pushing that. Remember now, exceptionalism and renegotiate your relationship with any and everybody, including our own black wealthy overclass. The overclass is made up of 5 or 6 elements. That's your ministers, your elected officials, your athletes, your entertainers, and your civil rights leaders. You're going to read, and you tell them straight up, they don't start doing more to help black folk and get off this stuff about multicultural and women and gender, all these other issues, that you're going to boycott them like they're boycotting you all.
Okay. This show is going to air, you all. It's going to re-air at 7:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Anybody missed it? Anybody missing? Those who didn't, you need to get on the phone. This is a show that everybody needs to hear. Tell them to go to innerlightradio.com tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Central Time, and 10 p.m. Eastern Time. This is a must-hear show. Dr. Anderson have laid the blueprints down. We need to renegotiate our relationship with everyone that's concerned, even our own people. Dr. Anderson, thank you, and may God bless you. And you pray for me, Dr. Anderson, because I'm about to do something. I ain't going to tell nobody what I'm going to do, but I'm about to do something right.
Well, I love both of you, and y'all take care of yourselves, and you're an asset to the black community. You keep up the good works, and I hope something comes help black soon, because otherwise they're going down. They don't make it this year, they can hang it up. I tell them, go find you a good spot on a 10-story building, get ready to jump.
Oh my goodness.
If you don't be pushed off before you jump. All right, jump. I'm just saying. Okay, thank you, Dr. Anderson. You all will talk to you next week.
Y'all have a pleasant day now.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.